Hey everyone, Jim T. Graham with RCGroups.com, and today we are doing a live interview with David from Mustache Model Works, and we're going to talk about David's past, how he got into flight, how that led him in his school endeavors, the jobs after that, and then how it all evolved into Mustache Model Works, and why his technique of creating kits for you is superior. What's happening, David?
Hey Jim, how you doing?
David and I have been fighting the internet today, which I'm sure many have. So yeah, I think we won. I'm going to go live now. Let me hit refresh. So I'm going to say it to everyone. If you want to join into a live chat like this, you need to be subscribed to our YouTube channel. And when you hit refresh, so we go live, then you will get a notice and then you can join the live chat. So Victor Shamulus is live. Victor, if you would just let us know you're hearing us and we're 1010 and you're listening in and it all sounds good. So first we'll start out, David, with how has the coronavirus pandemic treated you and your family?
Well, there hasn't been a big change for us. Um, I'm blessed to have a job that lets me work from home, so there's very little change there for me. It's also a job that keeps going, so that's great. We homeschool our son, so there's not a big change there, although he doesn't get to hang out with his buddies now, and everything's on WebEx. So we're doing all right.
So my son has a best friend and they both are homeschooled, but they hang out together every day. And they have completely gone to online gaming, although they're only a block away from each other. Is that what your son's doing?
Yeah, he does a bit of that. Also, we moved from a Champaign area to the Indianapolis area last September, so he's still reconnecting with some of his buddies back in what would be his hometown.
So I've got to say, and let me pull it up because this is the number one question I had about this company. If you name your company Mustache Models, I believe it's mandatory that you have a mustache. And so we'll switch over here. And I was surprised to see this that you actually are mustached up, but now the mustache is gone. What happened?
What happened was, as I was working on the first prototype of the Beaver, I became reacquainted with my allergy to balsa dust and maybe a little CA.
And it got in the mustache and then stayed with you?
And I could not get a good seal around my respirator with all the facial hair. So I didn't have a choice. If I wanted to be able to breathe, the hair had to come off.
And that completely works with COVID-19 and the standards for going out in public now. So I actually went out with my daughter and we walked around the neighborhood and everybody was wearing masks today.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. I hate to dive off on that sidetrack because that's not why we're here. So let's start
Right.
out with how you got into RC modeling.
Okay. That's kind of fun. I don't know where the interest came from. I think it's kind of in my DNA because my mom tells me even from age 2, I was always babbling on about airplanes. I guess before I could talk very well, I wanted an orange eggplane. Which is interesting. Um, when I got into second grade, we moved to a new town. And my first week in the new school, went to the library. This was in the mid 70s. And there was a flying models magazine. In fact, there were like 3 or 4 flying models magazines on the magazine rack. So I took those home and I read every single word in each one of them. I read every classified ad, every paid ad, the whole thing. And I was completely hooked at that point. Actually, before that, my first exposure to RC was on an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Now, I can remember being super young and watching Mr. Rogers and walking to my front yard and thinking about the episode, but I can't remember an RC episode. Can you tell us, just for my sake, what it was about?
Um, yeah, well, I haven't seen it since I was a kid. I did try to look it up online maybe a year and a half ago or so. And I thought that the guy was flying a pattern plane like a Taurus. Turns out I was wrong. I think it may have been was a VK Cherokee. It looks like that's what he was flying.
And that's what did it for you.
Yes. And I was in kindergarten at the time.
And so when did you actually get your hands on an RC airplane?
Well, I didn't start with RC. I started, going through balsa chuck gliders and little rubber band, rubber powered stuff. You get the Comet kit that has like 4 different airplanes and it's a build up approach. So I went through all of that kind of stuff. Um, I didn't get my first RC airplane until junior high, and it was Mark's Model's Wanderer 72. We didn't have servo reversing back then, and I didn't know because I didn't have anyone to help me. I did not know how to hook up the push rods to the servos and the control surfaces. So my controls were reversed, and my solution was to hold the transmitter upside down.
Did that work for you?
It did. I did a few flights that way,
And
but then after that, I was off and running.
and so that led to you studying this in school as well?
It did. I always wanted to be a fighter pilot as a kid. Looking back, maybe I don't have the right personality style for being a fighter pilot. Um, but I started out going that direction. I ended up at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, Arizona. So I got into aeronautical engineering that way because I was always interested in engineering, and I knew that as a pilot, your livelihood depends upon maintaining your eyesight and your physical condition. And I knew that one bad accident and your career could be gone. So I wanted to have the engineering to fall back on.
And then you jumped out of there and went to NASA?
I did, and the way I got into NASA, again, most jobs come as a result of networking. I connected with Ron Gilman down at the 1/8th Air Force Fly-In in Phoenix, and we kind of connected there. And so he took my resume back, and next thing I knew, there was an interview, and I was hired on at what is now NASA Armstrong. It's so I got hired into working in the RC Model Research Laboratory where Red Jensen works now.
Wow. So you really had a dream and you actually went out and grabbed it. That's amazing.
That's right.
And then talk to us about where that led you.
All right. So I was there at then NASA Dryden for 4.5 years. Then the opportunity came in to move to the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. So I jumped on that opportunity, and I spent 10.5 years there. Kind of feel like once a skunk, always a skunk. Got to do some really cool things. Moved around to a lot of different in a lot of different departments.
Now let me say, I think I know what skunk works entail based on different things on TV, but what did that mean to you? What were you doing?
Well, just from a career standpoint, to me, the skunk works was kind of the pinnacle because they're the ones who make the really cool stuff. Like going back to the U-2, the SR-71, F-117, F-22, all these really cool airplanes. So it was great to be able to be in that environment. I worked on various things while I was there. I did get to work on the JSF a little bit. I worked on the JASSM missile for a little bit. I did a few years of avionics flight testing on the F-117. I did aircraft conceptual design. In fact, I have 3 patents for a hybrid airship concept that our team developed while I was there. And I finished up my time working in business development, which was really cool.
And is that how you transitioned to Horizon?
In that time frame there, actually, before the business development, I was doing project engineering and program management on the Desert Hawk UAV, which we from contract award to delivery was 127 days.
Wow.
So that was a complete blitz of trying to get something out there to help protect Air Force bases over in the Middle East. Some modeling names you might know on that project, I worked with Joe Wirtz, who is a world-renowned sailplane pilot.
What year would this be?
That was around 2002.
Okay.
Or 2001, because it was right after September 11th.
Okay.
So 2002 is what it ended up being. In fact, that year, the Air Force liked it so much that they nominated us for the Collier Trophy.
Wow. Wow. So you're really doing something for the country. You guys had a mission. You're doing it for a reason.
Yeah, you really do feel, although you're not in the military when you're there, you really feel like you're part of that community.
Right. Because
And you definitely have a higher purpose to going to work every day.
you're creating for them. I can remember at 9/11, I was in my 76 Eldorado driving to the airfield, and my wife called and said, "You have to turn around and come home." She didn't tell me why, but I
Wow.
remember thinking why it was like I think it was this time frame where the sky was full of white trails of
Mm.
jets just screaming all over the place. So you're there, you're doing that. I don't get how you went from there to Horizon.
Um, I got into a path. I was working on again, the hybrid airship stuff,
Right.
and it was starting to look kind of like Lockheed wasn't going to go that direction. And I got kind of discouraged. At the same time, along the way, I picked up an MBA at UCLA, and I kind of wanted to get into a business that was a little more consumer oriented rather than focused on a limited number of companies going after limited government dollars.
Right.
Plus, having been a modeler all my life, I had a natural interest in getting involved in the hobby from a career standpoint.
And
So my tie into Horizon Hobby is that John Redmond and I knew each other for quite a while, and he had come to work at Horizon, and so he brought my resume in, and that opened the doors and resulted in interviews and eventually an offer.
did that lead to you moving across the country, or were you already around?
No, it we moved from Palmdale, California to Champaign, Illinois,
I
and that was actually part of the draw is raising our kids. I wanted to get them out of the California environment where gangs were starting to get more prevalent and drugs
right.
and kind of wanted to get into a more wholesome environment.
And did that work out that way when you got to a smaller town?
It worked out great. It we really enjoyed our time over there.
Awesome. And so that's when you and I met.
That's right.
And then at some point you stepped off.
Correct.
And now you're doing Mustache Model Works. I believe we had a lengthy discussion about the name of the company. How did you land on this name?
I landed on the name when I first started thinking about it. You've already shown the photograph. I did have the mustache. I wanted something that was going to be memorable, something that would make people smile. And so they're not going to forget it, and it's going to be a good memory for them.
Gotcha.
And so far, I think it's worked out fairly well because whenever I talk with someone about it, they kind of grin. That's what I want.
Well, let's jump over to the site so everyone can take a look at it. So this is the Mustache site. Do you want to talk about what we're seeing here?
Sure. This is just the landing page, the home page, a rotating banner going across here with a link to the kit. We only have the Beaver right now. There's a link to the gallery with some customer photographs, and then a link to go to take a look at our blog, which I put articles on there from time to time, and of course, it's not any specific time.
And I know, while we're here, we'll jump over to the trade show. So I'm on the homepage of the site, the very top of the trade show. Let me ask you this. I really wanted input while I was putting the trade show together. I really didn't get any input from anyone just because of things that were happening at the time. How, I guess I'm putting myself on the spot here. How do you like the fact that the trade show, once it opened, took over the top of the site? My goal was to make sure everyone saw it.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate for what you're trying to do. You have to do something to make it visible to people and easy to get to, and I think that's a reasonable approach.
All right. Well, I thought it was a bold move, but one I had to make. So we're going into Mustache Model Works. And so I created the main thread that we'll look at, but you also created the Beaver Q&A thread, video gallery, cow dimensions. You want to talk about any of this just in case, let's say somebody has not seen this yet? What would you say to them?
Sure. Most of the information with those different threads are available in the article that you posted at the top, which is fine. But people, when they open that, they might not want to scroll all the way down, or maybe they're on a mobile device or something. So I created the different threads so that people could go in and get specific information in that area.
Awesome. And then when you go into the main thread, you see a picture of the airplane, the Beaver, and then we also have a video that we can look at. So you're having a featured show deal. Tell us about
That's
that.
right. Right. The kit is normally $329.99. For the Toledo show, I was going to mark it down to $299.99, which because the show didn't happen, it moved right over here onto the online trade show.
And that was the goal, is that you would be able to get some deals that you would get at a trade show in our online trade show with a link
Right.
back to the show or to the page, and we can take a look at this video. I'll mute it. That looks like, where was that? Was that Joe Knoll?
No, that was out at Eli Field.
Eli, okay. And so,
which September was my home field.
right. Here's some internals, some flying.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you have two versions there at the house. Or is this the electric and the gas version?
Right. The white and yellow airplane is the first prototype, and it's powered with an E-Flight Power 60 with a 6S battery. And the other one, the Army Beaver, is the second prototype, and it's powered with a DLE 20.
There it is. And also, we'll go look at this, but you sell all the parts and pieces that go with this airplane, right?
All the parts and pieces that are on the website are considered spare parts or replacement parts.
Gotcha.
Those are all included with the kit when you purchase it.
Ah, okay. Well, we will jump off of here and go take a look at, so you can go to About and go back over what we just learned about David, or you can go to Shop.
Mm-hmm.
And this is MoustacheModelWorks.com. And the first thing up is the plane, and then these are the parts I was talking about. So we'll go into here. So here's our show price and our images. Showing you everything and details. So tell me about these drawings. Did these predate the airplane itself, or are these your sketches or drafts?
What you're seeing are screenshots of the 3D CAD in which I developed the airplane. So my philosophy was I wanted to use 3D CAD so that I could make sure that everything fit together properly. That was one of my big things. Part of what inspired me to do this was building an older kit and realizing that the parts don't necessarily line up the way they should. There's a lot of fudging that needs to happen, and I wanted to eliminate that. So it took a while to create this because, first of all, I had to learn a new 3D CAD package. I hadn't done any drawing since about 1999, and that was CATIA. Very long time ago. So I picked up Fusion 360 and I drew the Beaver in that.
So let me say this, because at a point in time, I also sold kits. And the thing, if you're not aware, if you haven't built a kit yet, is in the old days, you would get the kit pieces, but then you would have to sand just about every piece to get it to fit. And at the time, right at the end of my run is when people started laser cutting kit pieces. And that I thought, oh man, this is going to revolutionize kits. And tell us why. This is how you do it, right?
That's right. Yeah, laser cutting is part of it. For most wood airplanes, you can use 2D CAD and it'll work out just fine for you. But for me, there were some 3D parts that I needed to have made either vacuum formed out of plastic or molded out of fiberglass. And I wanted to ensure that those items fit in the airplane just perfectly. So it took me a lot of work. There are a lot of extra steps going from 3D CAD to getting your cut files. But as I was building the first prototype, I realized that the 3D direction was a good choice, and it paid off when I made the hatch for the Beaver, which is it's a vacuum formed part. Let me see if I can get it in the screen here. There we go. One piece vacuum formed part with a light ply frame underneath and some magnets to hold it in place. And so I got the frame all made up. I had the fuselage all framed up. And when I dropped the windscreen in place, it just fit perfectly.
And that's when you knew.
And that's when I knew, yeah, okay, this was a good decision. So that has carried on through not just the hatch, but all of the plastic parts and the fiberglass parts as well.
And so all of this allows, if you're going to put this together, it allows you to have a experience where you're not having to tweak or sand or these parts just almost. I remember building a plane where I thought maybe I don't apply CA. It fits so well. They
Yeah,
just pop together.
right. Yeah, and for me, a big thing is no re-engineering. You don't have to try to redesign something to get it to work.
Speaking of engineering, we have a live question from one of our live viewers. It says, it's from Victor. Since you used to work on jets like the SR-71, have you considered trying to create one of those?
SR-71 is a beautiful airplane. I love it. I think there are some other subject matters that I'm more interested in.
And we have another question. What is the wingspan on the Beaver?
Wingspan is 91.4 inches, so it's completely giant scale legal.
Awesome. And you were saying you're pretty fresh to the market. Tell us how old the company is and just how any growing pains or anything you're looking forward to doing after you kick off.
Mm-hmm. So I sat down to go through the tutorials for Fusion 360 in October of 2016. And I did not get through the CAD process until probably about May or June, I think May of 2017. So it certainly took me a lot longer to develop this kit than I expected. I think future kits will go faster because it was kind of a learning experience, working through all the steps it takes to bring a kit to life.
Right. And since we know that you're not doing the SR-71, is there, maybe you don't want to say, maybe you'd like to either keep it a secret or keep it to yourself, but is there a kit that you're thinking about?
You always have a list of kits that you're thinking about.
I'm going to say
Just
to
like
everyone, if you
any
want to join into
regular
the live chat,
hobbyist, you have a wish list of things you want to do, and there's just not enough life to get to all of them, probably. When you're in the business of creating these products, there's always no shortage of great ideas. There's just shortage of resources and time to make them happen. So I do have a written list that's about 25 or 30 subjects long. It's probably kind of warbird heavy, maybe about 2/3 warbirds, because those are kind of what I like. But I like all kinds of things that fly. So I have, some sport plane ideas on there, a sailplane idea or two, both in some civilian scale stuff as well.
Awesome. And so is there anything we should know? Let me recap here. We'll jump over of your website, which is mustachemodelworks.com. And you can go there and not only see this, I'll jump back into the product page.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the spare parts like the landing gear, which that is very reasonably priced. It's a guy who used to go through landing gear like crazy. Wingtips, cowls, 29 bucks for a cowl. Lower carb intake, wing tube. So all of this stuff is available.
Yes, it is.
And you can visit the blog and the gallery. And
Right.
anything else that I've missed? I've asked about your past. Anything else?
How about you go back to the product page for a second? Let me show you a couple of things.
You got it. Okay.
All right, go back to the kit product page. And if you scroll down a little bit more, yeah, make it bigger so you can see better. Keep scrolling. Okay. Whoops, too far.
Oh, sorry.
There are right there. So there are two links you can see. One is to the Beaver videos, That's where you can go on the product page to see the videos. Also in the manual section, if you expand the manual, you can download the manual in PDF format, which gets you color images that are higher resolution than the black and white printed version that comes in the kit. Very useful.
Ah, great. It's a lot of good info.
Yes.
How hard would you say this is to build? Could a beginner do it?
It's not hard, but it's not good for your first kit. I
Right.
think for your first kit, you need to go build something like a Cadet LT-25 or a Cadet Senior or some other wood airplane, just so you can get some basic building skills down, like how to use glue, how to use a sanding block, where do you cut with an X-Acto knife, and where do you not? All of those kinds of things. And then once you have those basic skills down, you can probably handle building the Beaver.
Now, what about covering? Do you sell covering?
Unfortunately, I don't at this point sell any accessories other than the kit and
The
the kit
plane.
parts.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, I want to get there in the future, but I'm not there right now.
And what kind of covering do you suggest?
I used Ultra Coat on the first prototype, and I used Monocoat on the second prototype, just because I hadn't used Monocoat in many years. And I found, honestly, for me personally, I thought they both were about the same ease of application.
Right.
They just each has its own quirks about how you work with it. But I
Gotcha.
like them both.
All right. So you're not out of stock. You have plenty in stock.
I am not out of stock, but stock is getting low. Since the review came out in Model Aviation magazine the end of January, and now with the online trade show, and with people locked up at home wanting to build things, I would say sales have picked up in the last couple of months, and I've gone through kits faster than I expected.
That's great, right?
So if you want one, you probably ought to hurry up and order it.
So Victor's asking for a link. Victor, there's a couple of things you can do. The website address is pretty simple. It's mustachemodelworks.com. And then you can also go to RCGroups and you can go into the trade show there, and that'll link you directly to the page that we just looked at. And I think that is it. Is there's anything that you want to tease in the future, or are we good?
I guess I'll say, a lot of people always ask, what's your next kit? And I'm not going to tell you the subject matter, but I will say I'm planning on a 60cc Warbird.
Ah, awesome. And do you have I know that's even a trickier question. Do you have an ETA when that thing might roll out?
No, I don't. At this point, it's likely next year sometime.
Well, let me say my goal is to do 3 online trade shows this year. So I'm going to learn from this one and see how it goes. And then hopefully we'll see that thing in one of our future trade shows.
All right. Very good.
All right, everyone. We've been talking to David from Mustache Model Works, a new company, a new plane. You can check that out. Just go to rcgroups.com. If you don't know where to go and look at the online trade show, go to Mustache Model Works and you can find out all the information, ask questions, watch videos, order the plane, get the deal, do it all, or go to mustachemodelworks.com. I want to thank everybody in the live feed that jumped on twice. And David, I want to thank you for working with me today to get this out.
Thanks a lot, Jim. I appreciate it.
RCGroups.com. Head on over there. It is popping, I have to say.